start to be part of this Masterclass. My name is Ben Jack-Prasad, so we're going to facilitate this Masterclass. Just before we begin, we've got a nice video to start with. So.
With 54 countries in Africa and over 1,500 spoken languages, we are the most diverse continent in the world.
That diversity has produced NBA legends amongst the greatest to ever play. And inspired the next generations of basketball stars to continue the legacy. From Junior NBA to basketball without borders, to NBA Academy Africa, to the BAL. We have mapped out a path for our youth to play the game and maximize their potential. With 4 offices across Africa, in Dakar, Johannesburg, Lagos, and Cairo, the NBA and the BAL continue to expand our footprint to allow the young talent of our continent to soar. The BAL showcases some of the best African talent while shining a spotlight on the continent and its capacity to become a global leader. Africa's first NBA store is giving fans unparalleled access to their favorite team and player apparel.
It's terrific. It's beyond exciting to be here for the opening of the first NBA store in Africa.
Our roots continue to spread throughout Africa and impact the continent beyond the game. The game is growing, and this is just the beginning. We are Africa.
Cool. It gives me great honor and pleasure in welcoming and hosting today the CEO of the National Basketball Association for Africa, Mr. Victor Williams. Please, everyone, give me a round of applause. Just a brief overview. In his capacity as the CEO for the league or the NBA for the continent, he is tasked with overseeing the continued growth of the popularity and the business development initiatives of the NBA and basketball. So today he will be taking us through or talking to us about winning beyond the scoreboard and changing lives through the sport. So Victor, over to you.
Thank you, Evan. Good afternoon. All right, people are still recovering from McDonald's. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
That's better. So first of all, thank you for coming to this session. You know, I think you all have to be very proud of yourselves for being part of this day. I understand that you've gone through a rigorous selection process to get here, and I hope that today is turning out to be everything that you wished it to be. As Reverend mentioned, I'm Victor Williams, CEO of NBA Africa. And I'm here with my wife, Memuna, who's seated right there, and my colleague, Pavel Weska, who's does all of our PR, leads our PR and media and communications efforts across the continent. I'd like to spend some time today talking to you about the NBA, what we're doing in Africa. I'd like to talk to you about how basketball and sports can be a platform for impacting lives, and maybe a little bit about my personal journey. I don't want to speak for a very long time because what I really want to do is interact with you and answer your questions and get into a dialogue with you. So my goal is to get into facilitated discussion and a Q&A as quickly as we can. How many of you are basketball fans here? Okay, quite a few. How many of you played the game? Okay. All right, good. And how many of you are wondering, what is the NBA doing in Africa? All right, so let me tell you a little bit about our story as a league, as far as it comes to Africa and what we're looking to do going forward. The connection between the NBA and Africa goes back many, many years. Back in the 1970s, some of our NBA players first started coming to Africa on their own. It was a time of African American awakening, a desire on the part of African American athletes to get to know about the continent. And some of them started to travel to the continent to experience what it had to offer and to build connections. But I would say the really first milestone in terms of basketball's connection to Africa was, and for the NBA, was Akeem Olajuwon from Nigeria being selected as the first player in the NBA draft. So let me explain what that means. Every year, the NBA selects new players to join the league. This year's draft happened a couple of nights ago. And does anyone know who was selected? He actually has a connection to Africa. Yeah, no? Okay. A young man called Victor Wembanyama, whose family is from the Democratic Republic of Congo, but now lives in France. He was selected as the #1 player in the NBA draft. In 1984, Akeem Olajuwon from Nigeria was selected as the first player in the NBA draft. And he had a stellar career in college basketball. Hakeem came to the game late in Nigeria. He was really a volleyball player. He picked up a basketball one day in his teens, and he very rapidly progressed in the game and became, at that time, he was deemed by the Houston Rockets as the best player coming out of college that year. Hakeem was really the first African to feature at that level in the NBA, and I think he opened the NBA's eyes to the talent in Africa, and it opened Africans' eyes to the fact that basketball was a sport, the NBA was a global league, and it was something that they could be part of. Not long after Hakeem, Dikembe Mutombo, who is from the DRC, was also selected high to join the NBA. And they really were the forerunners in a number of African players joining the NBA. Today we have more than 50 players in the NBA who are either from Africa or have at least one parent from Africa. And so we know that Africans have a lot of talent for basketball and can play the sport at a very high level. And so part of what the NBA has been looking to do is to grow the game on the continent and make it more accessible to Africans so that many more young people can learn the game and develop skills in the game and play the game at the highest level, because we know the talent is there. And so in 2010, we opened an office here on the continent, in Johannesburg, actually. And since that time, we've been growing the game in South Africa and across the continent. One of our largest programs in South Africa is a junior NBA program for young people aged 8 through 14, which we do in the Northwest Province with the Royal Bafokeng Nation. It involves 40 schools in that nation. They've been great partners for us. The leadership of the Royal Bafokeng Nation really believes in the power of sports to transform the lives of young people. And they've really worked well with us and partnered with us over many years to grow the game at the grassroots level. And we run grassroots programs like that across at least 15 countries in Africa, and we're looking to grow more and reach millions of kids with basketball. Our goal is that when a young African sees a ball today, most likely they're going to kick the ball. We want them to pick up the ball, dribble the ball, and shoot the ball. So growing the game at the grassroots level all the way to the professional level is part of what we're doing on the continent. We've started an elite camp, or rather an elite school for Africans who we think have the talent to play in the NBA. We call it the NBA Academy. It's a 4-year institution. It's a basketball intensive school where you do get an education. And from that school, we're already seeing a number of Africans who we know have the potential to be in the NBA in the next couple of years. And at the professional level, we started a top-class men's club league here on the continent. We call it the Basketball Africa League. And you saw some pictures of it in the video. We're now in the 3rd season of the Basketball Africa League. It involves 12 club teams, 12 club champions from across the continent. And in the last 2 years, South Africa has been represented by a team from Cape Town, the Cape Town Tigers. So growing the game from the grassroots to the elite level is part of what we're about. We're also looking to grow fans of the game on the continent. I actually am not someone who grew up playing the game. I was born and raised in Sierra Leone in West Africa, and there, like many Africans, I only knew about playing soccer or football. It was really late in life, and when I moved to the US for my education, that I became exposed to basketball. But I fell in love with the beauty, the athleticism, the creativity of the game, and I've become, and I am, a huge basketball fan. My sons are the players. My sons are all very good at this, but not me. But there are millions of Africans out there who didn't necessarily grow up with the game, but are fans of the game. And so we're looking to enhance fandom. We're looking to bring more live events to the continent. We're looking to bring Africans and NBA players to Africa. We're looking to make the game more accessible on television and social media. And we're looking to engage and grow fans on the continent. And recently, for example, we held a number of NBA watch parties. It was the NBA Finals. And we reached out to NBA fans, and we had almost 1,000 people show up here in Johannesburg to watch the NBA Finals at 2 o'clock in the morning. And it was a terrific event. You may have seen it covered on social media. We held similar events in Lagos, in Cairo, and in Maputo in Mozambique. And then we're looking to use the game to drive a particular story we want to tell about the potential for sports to be a driver of economic growth in Africa. If you, the NBA is a global league, but anchored in the US. In the US, sports is a billion-dollar industry, many billions of dollars. It provides millions of jobs. It drives huge investment in infrastructure, in stadiums and arenas. It provides lots of related jobs in medicine and finance and banking and law. It provides an avenue to educational achievement for young people. It provides a scope for entrepreneurship. And so we've seen what sports can do in terms of contributing to economic growth. And we want to show in Africa that sports can also contribute to economic growth. So as part of our activities, we're looking to build the business case for sports and showing that sports is an area where people can make money. Sports is an area where people can have jobs. Sports can be a catalyst for development. And also, sports can be a vehicle for social impact. One of the most incredible things we do is touching young people. Last week on Youth Day, we held a camp in Soweto. We had about how many? 500 kids. It was amazing. The joy that it brought to these young people and to their families that attended. And we use programs not just to teach about basketball, but to teach about life or life skills. And sometimes we're talking about health issues. Sometimes we're talking about issues relating to education and educational achievement and aspiration. Sometimes we're talking about issues of mental health. But we use the convening power of sports to reach people and have an impact in their lives. We're also actively using sports as a vehicle for driving greater gender equity and representation across the continent. Women in Africa are woefully and historically underrepresented in sports. They are underrepresented on the field, they are underrepresented in the ecosystem, they're underrepresented in the industry. And so, in our small way, we want to use our activities to normalize the participation of women and girls in sports. So our goal is that for our youth programs, we want to have at least equal representation of boys and girls. We want to work to develop women coaches and referees and administrators. And we want to show and grow the women's side of the game, both on the court and off the court. So that's what we're doing in Africa. And it is the vision of the NBA and its activities on the continent that led me to make a switch in my career to go from working in banking at Standard Bank to becoming the CEO of NBA Africa. As I said, I'm a sports fan, very passionate about growing successful businesses in Africa. That's been a thread throughout my professional life. And the opportunity to join the NBA and help lead its activities on the continent and achieve this great and powerful vision, at least we think so, was exciting. And so I hung up my spreadsheet and I put on my basketball shoes. And I will say it's been an incredible journey. One of the most exciting parts of what I do is the people that it allows me to reach and get to know. And as I thought about the theme of this masterclass, in terms of winning through sports and impacting lives through sport, I didn't want to talk just about my journey, because still relatively new in the game, but I thought about talking about the journey of really one of my heroes in basketball. He's someone I mentioned earlier, a gentleman called Dikembe Mutombo. Dikembe Mutombo is from the Democratic Republic of Congo. As I said, he is one of the first Africans to be selected to play in the NBA. Dikembe didn't start off in life intending to be a basketball player. He was really good academically when he was growing up in Kinshasa. He won a scholarship to Georgetown University, which is one of the elite universities in the US, for his academics. But Dikembe is really tall. I mean, he's at least 7 feet. Yeah. And walking around the campus one day, he was spotted by the coach, who invited him to try out for the basketball team. And he went on to have a storied career at Georgetown University, and as I said, played so well that he was selected by the NBA to join and become a player joining the Denver Nuggets. Dikembe had a stellar playing career. He was voted one of the best players in the NBA many times in his career. And he was particularly renowned for his defensive play. He was really great at blocking people from scoring shots at the basket. And whenever he blocked you, he had a trademark wave of his finger, say, no, 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 you're not getting here today. And the thing about Dikembe is he's always been about giving back. So he's active on the court, but on that picture, you see Dikembe at a camp, I believe here in Johannesburg, for a program we call Basketball Without Borders, where we bring some of the top young people from across Africa for a week-long camp to be trained by NBA coaches and players. Dikembe came pretty much almost every year. As long as he was available and as long as he was in good health, he was here. And his energy and the passion and the way he always tapped into the I want to call it the kid in him, the young person in him, and always interacted powerfully with the people at the camp. So basketball for Dikembe is not just about his achievement on the court, it's about giving back to young people. And he's also been a statesperson for the game. In, I believe, 1993, the NBA, aware of the changes happening in South Africa, actually brought a delegation led by the then NBA commissioner, David Stern, to meet President Mandela and to talk with him about the power of sports to transform lives. And Dikembe was part of that delegation, and came here and really, I think, was inspired by that meeting to do even more on his part to give back. So, using basketball as a platform, Dikembe has been an ambassador, a goodwill ambassador for various United Nations organizations. He's built a hospital in the DRC in the name of his mother to provide health to thousands of people. And just about a couple of years ago, he opened a school of science and technology in his father's hometown to train young people in STEM subjects. An amazing facility, which I had the opportunity to attend. I attended the opening. And I think the thing about Dikembe as well that I would say is that when we decided in 2020 to grow the NBA in Africa in a new phase, we actually went out to some of our former players and said, do you want to come in and be part of this and invest alongside the NBA in this new phase of NBA Africa? And Dikembe was one of the first people to come on board and has been a great supporter of what we do. So as I think about basketball as a platform that can help transform lives, and I think about one person that exemplifies that, it's Dikembe Mutombo, who I'm proud to call a friend. So thank you. Those are my prepared remarks, and I'd love to interact with you and take questions.
Thank you very much, Victor. Very enlightening, and the sport is absolutely cool. I think, thank you for showcasing the game's impact in Africa and the role that the on-court leaders and legends of play in communities today. Can you speak to how your passion for the game has led to you and your current role today?
Well, as I said, you know, I love the game. So my story here is at age 17, I moved to the US from Sierra Leone to continue my education. I turned on the television and I saw a basketball game being played. It involved the Los Angeles Lakers, which was a really good team at that time. I loved the energy, the passion, the excitement, the style with which they played. And I became a fan of the game. And since then, I've just continued to call it growing fandom. When I lived in the US, as I said, all my kids played basketball. I became a season ticket holder, meaning I bought tickets to every game for the team in the city where I lived. I would drag the family to the games. When I moved back to Africa, I would stay up in the middle of the night to watch the NBA games. So there was that passion. So that when I found out that the NBA was recruiting for the role of CEO, I was like, oh, that could be an interesting thing to do. But as I said also, believing in the vision and the future of what we're looking to do, and believing that I had something to add to that in helping make it happen was really key in me taking on this role. Obviously, the NBA also had to believe that I could add something. So we found that meeting of the minds. Yeah.
That's cool. I've got two more, well, actually one more question because he's answered the other one, and then we're going to go over to Q&A and interactive discussion with all of you. So the other question was basically how we were wondering how to see, do you see the NBA's broader impact in Africa? But I'm pretty sure you guessed that one. The other question was, with the recent success of the Basketball Africa League, can you speak a little bit about NBA Africa's broader plans for the continent?
Yeah, so, I mean, and I'll say a little bit about the Basketball Africa League because it's a really big part of what we're doing. One of the things that, you know, as I said earlier, we want young people in Africa to be exposed to the game and become familiar enough with the game that when they see a ball, they bounce it and dribble it and shoot it rather than kick it. But once somebody gets to that level, how do you sustain their interest in basketball? And we believe that for that to happen, you got to show them a path to one day playing the game at a high level on the continent and having a successful career playing the game. By and large, across the continent, that doesn't exist today. Domestic leagues are generally weak, and people are not well paid. The level of professionalism varies. And so, as a culmination of all the other things we had done, we said, all right, now it's time to start a professional league. And so the Basketball Africa League is this professional league. It involves 12 national champions from across the continent. We play between the months of March through May. And the way we play is we play in 3 cities right now. In Dakar in Senegal, in Cairo, Egypt, and in Kigali, Rwanda. And we bring, you know, the teams to that location, and they play amongst each other in that city. We bring half the teams to the location, 6 of them. They play amongst each other. We do the same thing in Cairo. So first in Dakar, then in Cairo, and then the top 4 teams from Dakar and Cairo go to Kigali and play in the final. So we bring the top 8 teams to Kigali. Why are we using that model? In part is because we want to put on a particular kind and quality of professional experience for the players, for the teams, for the fans, for the broadcast. And so it's really important to us, or it has been, to play in world-class arenas on the continent. And actually, there are not that many indoor world-class arenas. Dakar has one. Cairo has a couple. We're playing in one of them. And Kigali in Rwanda has a great one. And so the model we've used really optimizes where those arenas are. As we go forward, we'll look at other models for the BAL, potentially playing in other cities that have good arenas. and finding ways to get more fans from the continent involved and giving them an opportunity to see their team play close at hand. But we're really excited about the BAL, and we think it's going to be one of the top professional leagues in the world.
Cool. Really good stuff. So I had my opportunity to ask questions. Now it's yours. Any questions? Oh, there we go. Back.
So do you need a mic? Are there mics on the table? I think some of them.
Afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Do you want to say your name? And
My name is Zamoguhle Tabete. You said something about workshops in the townships. Now, I know one of the goals the NBA Africa has is when a child sees a ball, they shouldn't kick the ball, instead they should bounce the ball. But now, we are living in a country with scarce resources, and now there isn't enough infrastructures for let alone kids to know about basketball but play. So what is the NBA Africa doing to combat that problem that we have?
It's a great question. And so what we're doing in particular is building and refurbishing courts around the continent. Our vision is to build, up to 1,000 courts across Africa. Build or refurbish. Some places they're courts, but they're in really poor shape. And so right now, in South Africa, we are working on a court refurbishment in Alexandria. We've worked in the past on courts in Soweto. We've done, as I said, a lot of courts in the Northwest Province with Royal Bafokeng. But this is not work that the NBA alone can do. And so what we really want to do is inspire other partners in the ecosystem to come alongside us and help in the construction of courts. But then it's also the provision of balls and nets and hoops for people to play the game. Where the one thing we can do is ensuring that once those facilities are built, that there are then programs to teach the kids how to play, right? So if you just build, we say sometimes, if you just build a court without putting a program there, you just made a nicer place to play football. So the next thing is, and the associated thing with building courts is ensuring that we train people in the community, people in schools, to run and organize our junior NBA programs where kids can learn to play the game.
Last question.
Yep.
So, I've back in high school, so I've seen the program Junior NBA, but now I've never actually seen nobody I know that I thought of them to be good enough to play in the NBA. I've never seen them actually go to an NBA academy. Why? Because I don't think they have the resources to get noticed by the NBA academy. So what are the requirements rather for the students you have in the NBA academy, and how are they selected, and who is part of that selecting?
Great question. So it used to happen by word of mouth, meaning people who, because there is a basketball ecosystem, and people would see some young kid play and they're like, he's really good. We should, NBA, you should take a look at this kid. And then as we evolved, people started sending us videos, and we could look at the videos, and it would help us at least select a group to then go evaluate. We've become much more systematic. And so today we have a network of scouts who are really basketball coaches all across the continent who are identifying kids for our various camps. So we do national camps, we do regional camps, we then do a Pan-African camp. And so people are coming through that path and being identified at each level. And so by the time we get to the Pan-African camp, we actually have a really good sense of who those top young people are. And that group is the one from which we then select from the NBA Academy. So are we catching everybody who is out there to be caught? Probably not. But I think we're doing a much better job today than before. And every so often, someone goes on TikTok or Instagram and records a video showing themselves playing basketball and sends it to us, and we take a look at that as well.
We will come to you guys now. This lady was reading. Oh, yeah.
Oh, should I put my Hi everyone, my name is Kuseleto. I am a community leader and I'm very passionate about youth. I am from Soweto. And one of the things that you said was that basketball and sports can impact lives positively, and that you believe that the sports has a potential to impact lives and be an economic drive, right? And have a social impact in young people's lives. And now I'm thinking about my community. I think my question might be a bit similar to what my brother on that side asked. But I think I have an ask because he's already asked the question.
Yeah.
I have an ask from you to say, as much as you do have scouts, right, looking, you said you wanted people to be fans of the sports, right? But I think the word of mouth that you were talking about would also work where if maybe you could have programs where you would approach maybe schools. I know you can't reach all schools in Soweto, but you know, once a child is aware that there might be an opportunity for me to make a living in this way, because unfortunately for our communities, the only way out seems like just getting your books, reading your books and making it. Some people are not, or some children are not there. And for them to be aware of that, there's another option for me. You know, maybe getting representatives to tackle that and maybe give talks in schools. That's my ask. If it's possible for it to happen for our communities, I think it will also help with the fan base.
Thank you. It's a great idea, and it is part of our strategic approach across the continent. And what I mean by that is we want basketball in the schools and to become part of the physical education or curriculum. And we are engaging with various ministries of youth as well and sports. So depending on the country, it's the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Youth, Ministry of Sports. Sometimes those are three ministries, sometimes they're one. But they're the ones that control access to the schools. And so that's the work. And ideally we do it in conjunction with the basketball federation in that country. So in South Africa, we've had those discussions in the past. We continue to have them. I think we definitely see the potential. And as I said, when we look at a place where we've been able to succeed, like we have with Royal Bafokeng, the impact is obvious. I mean, we have at least a couple of examples, if not more, of people from that community whose proficiency in the game has taken them all the way to the NBA Academy or to scholarships to attend universities in the US. Some of them are now have become coaches with NBA. Some of them are now employees with NBA Africa. So we know what impact introducing the game into schools can have, and we very much agree with you. And if there are any connections you might have that could allow us to move quickly, we'll certainly be happy to have that discussion.
I know there's a few questions coming from that end, and now one just popped up here. For you first, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, let's go.
My name is Dick George from Botswana. I'm the vice chairman of the BDP National Youth League, the ruling party, by the way. Yeah,
So you're a politician, you say?
Yes, I'm a politician, and I want to, change the world. Yeah, I have a question, but before my question, let me appreciate what NBA is doing in Africa, because automatically that tells me that the vision and the dream will automatically fight unemployment in the continent. It's a very good dream, and I wish it grows and we support it as the youth, so that we have less youth on the street. My question is, I heard you talking about 15 countries, and I had expected that maybe you could just easily go through those countries that you work with in Africa, so that I could be sure if Botswana is and if Botswana is not in, what can we do? What can I do? To have that, because we have basketball courts, donated and sponsored by these corporate companies, but they're just
Good place to play soccer.
Yeah, now we go there and play soccer and we hang out, chill with the girlfriends and the boyfriends.
Thank you. And first of all, thanks to coming all this way to be part of this group. I didn't realize it was an international group. Well, great to have you here. But it's a great question and very timely. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was at the Congress of, let's call it the African Basketball Federations, which was held in Maputo in Mozambique. And the couple of people who I met were the president and vice president of the Botswana Basketball Federation. And so we've started a dialogue about working with them on court refurbishments in Botswana, as well as junior NBA programs. And I'm coming to Botswana in a few weeks and meeting them in person to continue the dialogue. So Botswana is on.
Cool. Those two ladies there at that table had a question each, and then we can come to this lady at this table over here.
Thank you so much. I think my voice is fine. My training voice is fine. Okay, so my name is Moya Danzi. I'm more in the quality improvement, public health system strengthening space. My question was how was your transition moving from a banker into sport? And have you ever thought of, if you had done that earlier where you still had parents, would it have surfaced and would we have achieved that in that space? Because we are growing up in societies where we are, the narrative is that you go to school, you get a job, and that's that. It's more like very much linear, but you manage to come out of that. My last one is an extension from the two speakers to say, do we have educational programs to capacitate our parents to actually see and try to change that narrative to say that there is an avenue or there is a possibility? Because I grew up thinking that any type of sport is a hobby, or I just go there when, just to offload. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Great question. And I'll say that, I empathize. Growing up as somebody who was a sports fan, but not particularly gifted at play, I thought about, okay, I'm not good enough to play, let's say soccer. I could be a referee or nothing. Those were really the only options that I could see for being associated with sport. And it wasn't until later in life that I really began to have an appreciation of everything that goes on around sports, from a business perspective, medicine, law, and that's, I think, the being in the US, you're more exposed to that, and you begin to see, including people you know who are working in sports, but not on the court, in roles around sports. And we lived in Charlotte, North Carolina. The basketball team there is the Charlotte Hornets now. Yeah. There's a football team, an American football team, the Carolina Panthers, and we had friends who worked for these teams, and so you could see people had careers in sports. And so when I came back, and yes, I'd been in banking, but when the opportunity to move into sports presented itself, I knew that one could have a career in it. And I think when I told people at Standard Bank that I was leaving Standard Bank to go work for the NBA, some people were like, why would you do that? And some people I remember asking, so that's like a part-time role, right? You're going to be doing this with your free time. I'm like, no, this is going to be my full-time job. And so in Africa, it still is very, very new. Still very, very difficult, very new for sports to be seen as a professional arena. Across NBA Africa and the BAL, across our 4 offices, we have, for us, more than 100 people today working full-time in sports. We have people in finance, in law, we work with people in medicine, people in events, PR, business development, managing partnerships. It's a whole range of roles. And yes, we are, especially in conjunction with the Basketball Africa League, running programs for young people to expose them to the fact that you can have careers in sports. But when I talk about the value of showing that sports is an area where you can make money, that's really critical for organizations to exist that are financially successful and sustainable and that can provide the jobs in sports, right? So if sports becomes an area or becomes seen as an area where if you go there you can't earn a decent living, then it's not going to be an attractive place for young people. And so part of what we want to show is that sports can be a place that's actually financially successful, and you can have a well-paying career in sports. And I think if we can demonstrate that, then it becomes easier for parents to say to their kids, yeah, you can have a future in sports, and it's not just a hobby, but some place where you can actually aspire to go for a career.
The lady behind your question, do you still have a question?
It's more of a comment, I'd say, but it's a follow-up from the 2 speakers.
Yeah.
I'll stop myself to not say something, but I come from the Eastern Cape. Oh, sorry, my name is Nokolo Ngayo. I'm from Durban, from the Ports Regulator. But I'm originally from Port Elizabeth, and where we grew up, basketball, in my time, it was a culture. All the schools were fitted, like the gentleman has said, with basketball courts. The facilities were there. But over the years, that culture has died down. And I asked myself, why has that happened? And the answer was that there's no end offtake for the sport in Africa. So now it's very interesting to hear that NBA is here and has all of these programs to drive the social change, because those programs that were there were very visible. Those would remember there was a partnership between basketball and Love Life, and they had programs in place in communities, after school programs, and those are not there anymore, and then we can see the decline in the social change. We now see people going to drugs and youth sitting on the streets because there's no available programs. I was wondering, is there an opportunity for a partnership to go back to in the Eastern Cape? And you spoke about, secondly, about the domestic basketball and how it's not linked. What are the challenges there? And what systems probably needs to be placed to ensure that those offtakes and those programs put into place and there's alignment between the two?
That's a fantastic questions. I think I'm not familiar with that specific program. Pavel, you might. No.
That's his thing.
That's the story. Pavel's younger than he looks. But I think the point is very well made. Community programs are critical for getting young people involved in the game in an organized and sustainable way, and for the game to make a real difference in their lives. And so a lot of what we do today, I would say, I was looking at some numbers, the majority of what we do today is linked to community and grassroots development programs. So, we would love to reconnect with companies, agencies within government that have the capacity to organize and sustain those programs. We can catalyze, but for programs to be sustainable, it needs to be owned by people in the community who are working with those kids every day or twice a week or etc. as the case may be. I think the other point you made about the domestic league is a great one. And that, I'm not looking to be controversial because there is at least one domestic league in South Africa, but it has some challenges, and we've provided, advice where we can, but it's not part of our vision or mandate to take over the running of domestic leagues. They have to sort themselves out, but we can be helpful. Running a league is one of the things the NBA does and is really good at, but we can be helpful. And our view has been, if we establish the top league, and we did so in conjunction with FIBA, the basketball federation across Africa. If we establish the top league, it provides the aspiration that causes the domestic leagues to say, hey, we want to participate there. And so then they organize themselves. And we are also providing funding into that top league that is helping to sustain the domestic leagues that participate as well. So there's a lot of work to do, but it can be done. It's about alignment between the various stakeholders. It's about organization. And if you have alignment and organization, it makes it much easier to go to corporate partners and say, can you support and sponsor this league?
So we've got about 5 minutes left, so I think we can accommodate at most 2 more questions. And then if you've got anything else, we can obviously chat to you. He's been waiting. So if we can, we'll also get to you, but you first. Okay.
Mic, please.
Oh, finally. Hi everyone, my name is Ellen. I'm just a parent. I have a problem. I have a 16-year-old who cannot stop bouncing the ball.
That's good. That's good.
It is a problem when he literally sneaks out of the house to go play basketball during times when he's supposed to be concentrating on his academics. So I literally just need a frank answer. How important are academics when it comes to moving up the ladder to become a basketball star? Like, I just need the truth, because he keeps on telling me, no, Mom, I just need to pass. That's all I need to do. So I really need help in this department. But I do want him to participate in his academics. He needs to do well there, because there needs to be a balance, because I'm not going to be a happy parent if he's sneaking out for basketball, but results are coming back and I'm not getting A's. So yeah, I just need clarification with regards to this.
All right, okay. So, as a parent who also had 3 boys who were into basketball, let me say that. So, I think one of the things that we've done actually with a number of parents is help them understand what the path is through playing the game. And I'm proud to say that even here in South Africa, we've been able to engage with parents who know nothing about the game to help them understand how kids who are good at the game can then utilize their prowess in basketball to win scholarships to high schools in the US and maybe even to colleges in the US and go on to play the game at a high level. Now, alongside all of that, in order to win those scholarships, you still need to have good academics. And so the unsolicited, well, you did solicit the advice, would be to say there shouldn't be the trade-off, that he still needs to, it's a he?
Yes.
Okay, still needs to deliver good academics in conjunction with basketball. And that even as the game is something that motivates and excites him, that he should view the game as something that helps him to be better positioned for life. But even as he's learning the game, he should also be preparing himself for life and have the tools and the wherewithal to fall back on if for whatever reason the game doesn't work out for him.
I will hope.
But he was really good. We'd love to talk to him.
Point guard. Unfortunately, he's not here.
We'd love to talk to him. We actually do, for some, if the kid's really good, we'll do an evaluation of the kid.
Now he's playing with under 21, so, and he's 16. So
Okay.
Like it.
Well,
But I'll get him in the program. Don't
Okay,
worry.
good.
Cool. I believe we need to now vacate the room to the next class. So unfortunately, we could have. I would definitely like to listen to Victor a lot more, but unfortunately, we have to move to the next class. So if you have any additional questions, please feel free to jot them down and send them to Lincoln Marley Foundation, and we can address them accordingly. And you can also just chat to Victor if you can manage to get a moment in after this. Victor, it was an absolute pleasure having you here today. We really look forward to what you and the organization are going to bring for the continent in the very near future. And you've definitely inspired me to get back to my ball and my hoop again.
Thank you guys. It's been a great audience. Enjoy talking to you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully you leave today with lessons that you can take forward and impact the world out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool.